Imagine a forest so old that the trees remember when dragons still flew through the clouds. A place where the shadows stretch just a little too long and the wind whispers secrets if you listen hard enough. That is where our story begins today. You might think you know the tale of the girl in the red hood, but trust me, you have never heard it told like this. Welcome back to the magical world of fairy moss babies, where we dig up the legends and serve them up fresh. Before we step onto the dark, winding path of the enchanted woods, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button and hit subscribe right now. It is the only way to make sure you do not get lost in the forest alone. Got it? Good. Now let's get into the mystery. In a village on the edge of the Whispering Woods lived a girl named Red. She was not your average kid. She had this bright, fiery energy that made everyone smile, but her most prized possession was a velvet cloak her grandmother had stitched by hand. This was not just any fabric. It was woven with protective threads that shimmered under the moonlight. When Red pulled that hood up, she felt invincible, like a superhero ready to take on the world. One crisp morning, the sun was fighting to peek through the thick canopy of leaves, and Red's mom handed her a heavy wicker basket. Inside, there was a loaf of bread still warm from the oven, a jar of golden honey harvested from the royal bees, and some sweet berry jam. Her grandmother, who lived deep in the heart of the forest, had come down with a nasty cold, and she needed these supplies to get her strength back. Red's mom knelt down, fixing Red's collar with a serious look in her eyes. She told Red that the woods were shifting today. The vibe was off. She made Red promise to stay exactly on the cobblestone path. She warned her that there were things in the woods, tricksters and shadows, that would try to lead her astray. No shortcuts, no talking to strangers, and definitely no stopping to chase butterflies. Red rolled her eyes just a little, gave her mom a quick hug, and promised she would be a total pro. Straight to Grandma's, no detours. She adjusted her basket, pulled her hood tight, and stepped into the tree line. At first, the forest was totally chill. Birds were tweeting, sunlight dappled the ground, and the air smelled like pine needles and adventure. Red started humming a little tune, feeling confident. But the deeper she went, the quieter things got. The birds stopped singing. The wind died down. It was like the forest was holding its breath. Suddenly, a smooth, low voice drifted from behind a massive oak tree. It was the kind of voice that sounded like velvet over gravel. Out stepped a wolf. But this was not just a scruffy dog. This creature was huge, with eyes that gleamed like polished amber and a smile that had way too many teeth. He leaned against the tree casually, acting like he owned the place. He asked Red where she was headed in such a rush on a beautiful day. Red knew she was not supposed to talk to strangers, but the wolf seemed so polite, almost charming. She gripped her basket tighter and told him she was heading to her grandmother's house at the end of the path. The wolf's ears perked up. He knew exactly where that cottage was. A plan started forming in his mind, a plan that was definitely not good for Red or her grandma. He pointed a sharp claw toward a patch of glowing blue flowers off the path. He told her that the main road was boring and dusty. He claimed the scenic route was full of magic flowers that never wilted, and surely her sick grandmother would appreciate a beautiful bouquet to brighten up her gloomy room. Red hesitated. She remembered her mom's warning, but she looked at the flowers and they were pulsing with a soft, magical light. She thought about how happy her grandma would be. Just for a minute, she thought. Just a quick detour. The moment Red stepped off the cobblestones and into the tall grass, the wolf's smile turned into a hungry sneer. He did not care about flowers. He cared about lunch. While Red was distracted picking the enchanted blooms, the wolf vanished into the shadows, running a secret shortcut that only the creatures of the dark knew. He moved faster than the wind, a blur of gray fur racing toward the cottage. When Red finally looked up, she realized the path was gone. The trees looked different here, twisted and gnarled, like they were reaching out to grab her. A cold shiver ran down her spine. The magical flowers in her hands suddenly looked ordinary and wilted. She realized she had been tricked. Panic started to set in, but she remembered who she was. She was Red. She took a deep breath, found the sun's position, and scrambled back toward where the path should be. She had to warn her grandma. She ran faster than she had ever run in her life, her red cloak flying behind her like a superhero cape. Meanwhile, the wolf had arrived at the cottage. He knocked on the heavy wooden door with a gentle rhythm, mimicking Red. When Grandma called out, the wolf softened his voice, pretending to be her granddaughter. The door unlatched, and in a flash, the wolf burst in. Now, don't worry, this isn't a horror movie. Grandma was tough. She saw the wolf and immediately dove into her large wardrobe to hide, locking it from the inside. The wolf, frustrated that he missed his snack, decided to play the long game. He found one of Grandma's nightgowns and a frilly sleeping cap. He disguised himself, tucked his furry paws under the quilt, and waited in the dim light, grinning that wide, toothy grin. Red burst through the front door a few minutes later, out of breath and sweating. The cottage was quiet, too quiet. The curtains were drawn, making the room shadowy and gray. She crept toward the bed. Something felt wrong. The air smelled like wet dog, not lavender and tea. She called out softly to her grandma. The figure in the bed groaned and pulled the covers up higher. Red stepped closer, squinting in the dim light. She noticed the figure in the bed looked strange. She commented on how big Grandma's ears looked. The wolf, disguising his voice with a rasp, said it was just to hear her sweet voice better. Red took another step. She noticed the eyes, huge, yellow, and staring right at her. She mentioned the big eyes, and the wolf replied it was to see her bright face better. Then Red saw the teeth, sharp, jagged, and definitely not human. She whispered, trembling, about the size of those teeth. The wolf threw off the covers, roared that they were all the better to eat her with, and lunged out of bed. Red screamed and scrambled backward, throwing the basket at him. The bread bounced off his chest, but the jar of golden honey smashed right on the floor in front of him. The wolf's paws hit the sticky, thick honey, and he slid like he was on ice, crashing into the wall with a loud thud. Red didn't stop. She grabbed a heavy broom from the corner and stood her ground. She wasn't going to be a victim today. Just then, the wardrobe door burst open and Grandma jumped out, wielding a heavy knitting bag like a weapon. At the exact same moment, the door to the cottage flew open. A local woodcutter, who had been chopping trees nearby and heard the scream, rushed in with his axe raised. The wolf looked at Red with her broom, Grandma with her heavy bag, and the strong woodcutter blocking the exit. He realized he was outnumbered and covered in sticky honey. The woodcutter stepped forward, but Red held up a hand. She told the wolf that if he ever came near her or her grandmother again, the entire village would hunt him down. The wolf, humiliated and covered in goo, whimpered. He scrambled out the door, slipping and sliding, and bolted into the deepest, darkest part of the woods, never to be seen in that village again. The woodcutter helped clean up the honey mess, while Grandma hugged Red so tight she could barely breathe. They sat down and ate the bread and jam, laughing about how ridiculous the wolf looked sliding into the wall. Red learned a valuable lesson that day. Being brave is important, but listening to the people who love you is what keeps you safe. She realized that the path is there for a reason, and not every friendly stranger has good intentions. As the sun set, casting a warm orange glow over the cottage, Red knew she would always be careful, but she would never lose her adventurous spirit. That evening, as she walked home with Hey, if you enjoyed this twist on the classic tale, please share this video with a friend who loves spooky stories. Thanks for hanging out with us at Fairy Moss Babies. Stay safe, stay magical, and we will see you in the next story.